Anyway, we got a great interview for you now. Jerry Newcomb joins us. He is one of the co-authors of the book, How Would Jesus Vote, I think. And he actually co-authored this with Dr. D. James Kennedy, and he joins us now. It's Dr. Newcomb at this point, isn't it?
Yes, it is, actually.
Yes.
Although it's really not on the same level as Dr. Kennedy's degree, in the sense that he had a PhD, whereas mine is a doctorate of ministry.
And Dr. Kennedy has passed away since you guys wrote the book.
Yes, he
right?
has. Yes. We started this process before he got sick and then died.
Right. All right. Well, look, I got to tell you something, Dr. Newcomb. I'm sure I'm going to disagree with you, but not on whether he's going to vote Democrat or Republican. I really don't know. But the fact that Jesus would have voted at all. But nonetheless, I am very curious. How would Jesus vote?
Well, by parchment and absentee ballot. No, that's what that's what somebody said on one of the radio shows that I've done this. But what our real purpose in the book is to talk about how would Jesus have us vote. The question, of course, how would Jesus vote, is based on the old question, what would Jesus do? Well, what would Jesus do? Well, let's see. When he needed to get from point A to point B, in certain cases, he would walk on water. He was able to do things that we cannot do. And so really the question we wanted to look at is, are there Christian principles of voting? Are there perspectives on the issues that we could look at from a Christian perspective? And we believe the answer is yes. And we culled through principles in the Word of God looking for that. I'll give you an example that's related to this particular election, which is abortion. We believe that Jesus Christ is co-creator with God the Father and the Spirit, who actually made these little babies inside the womb, that he would not be pleased at all with what's happening, with the wholesale destruction of the unborn babies.
All right, Dr. Newcomb, I don't know where you wind up on a Democrat or Republican side yet, although with that I got my first clue. But I don't really, on that count, I don't care that much.
That's because you've already been born.
Yeah, okay, no, that's
and I have too, by the way.
And I want to get back to abortion in a second, because I think that's very interesting. But first, when you take particular parts of the Bible, and people in the opposite party take other parts of the Bible, addressing poverty, addressing peace, etc., aren't you guys just manipulating the Bible to pretend to know how Jesus would vote? You didn't talk to Jesus, right? And couldn't I take any portion of the Bible and manipulate it into convincing people to vote for my own party?
Well, I think that's a very good point. I remember seeing at the like Gettysburg Museum, you can see little copies of the Bible on both sides. In other words, the northern soldiers and southern soldiers, you can see that they had their. In fact, Abraham Lincoln even made that point. He said both read from the same Bible. That's in one of his speeches. I think it may be his second inaugural address. In fact, speaking of Lincoln, we quoted him in the book, in fact. I thought that was really important. People talk about, is God on our side? And Lincoln said, the really important question is, are we on God's side? And I think that's the better question for us to ask. I think if you look at what the Bible says on various issues, you see that the Bible's teaching, I think, is very clear. Take the example you just mentioned a moment ago about helping the poor. I think that's extremely important about helping the poor. But I don't see anywhere in the Bible that it says that the government should help the poor. And when the government gets involved, it's actually counterproductive. And it actually hurts more poor people than helps them in the big picture.
Dr. Newcomb, that's an interesting point.
Pardon me?
That's an interesting point, so I want to follow up on that. So
okay.
Where in the Bible does it say that the government should get involved in abortion?
Well, it doesn't per se, but the Bible does talk about protecting human life, rescue those who are perishing.
So the Bible talks about helping the poor and poverty. So why do you make
the Bible doesn't say...
Wait. So that's a really important point. So why do you think when it comes to poverty, no, the government shouldn't get involved? Let those people deal with it on their own with the help of ministries, etc., and the community. But when it comes to abortion, you say, no, the government has to get involved. The government has to.
The family above all. Well, first of all, let me say this. As far as abortion is concerned, I mean, the bottom line is, when there are laws against, shedding innocent blood, there are laws against taking somebody else's life. There is another individual involved in this. So laws that are there to protect innocent life, I think, are very important.
Yeah, I'm not buying it at all. I mean, it just sounds like you want people to vote Republican, and you're going to twist that Bible any way you possibly can to come to that conclusion.
I wish, to be frank with you, I wish that that the Democrats would be pro-life too.
In fact, I suppose you would.
In fact,
right?
well,
you wish that the Democrats would also be Republicans.
Jack,
I'm not surprised.
Jack, it's interesting that part of the reason that they were able to, in 2006, that the Democratic leadership was able to manage to win back the House and win back the Senate, part of the deal was to run candidates who were pro-life. And that, if you added up the tally,
All right, let's do two
like
things
for example, Senator Casey from Pennsylvania.
I
mean, I'm serious. If you were to add up the tally, it made the difference of the margin of error in terms of them winning back the House and the Senate.
Dr. Newcomb, Casey blew Santorum out of the water, beat him by 18 points. If he was pro-choice, he still would have won. Okay, Pennsylvania is a blue state, but let's get to the heart of your argument instead. Okay, and by the way, we're talking to the author of How Would Jesus Vote, which is, honestly, I think is a preposterous thought in the first place. I think he's a mythological character. It's like asking, how would Zeus vote? I don't know, and I don't care.
You're saying that Jesus is a mythological character?
Absolutely, but that's a whole separate debate. Let's not get into that. Okay, so let's talk about...
Well, now, wait. If that were true, then, by the way, there's as much attestation for Jesus Christ from all sorts of sources, from antiquity
I know.
to the point, to the point that if you were to doubt Jesus being, a reliable historical figure, then you really might need to become an agnostic when it comes to ancient history in its entirety. In fact, there's more attestation for Jesus Christ than Tiberius Caesar, who was the Caesar at the time that Jesus began his public ministry. I'm serious.
Dr. Newcomb,
Will Durant, the great historian.
No. I don't want to get sucked into this
debate.
All right.
But you're wrong on that point. And by the way, I've got a whole blog on that whole issue. You can see it at coralridge.org.
There are 4 references to Christ, none to Jesus in the historical record. Christ is a general term, means the anointed one, which everyone claimed to be at the time. Okay, I mean, you want to get into history when there is no history whatsoever. It is the same thing as taking the Persian gods, the Egyptian gods, the same exact mythology, and they put it to Christianity, and all of you fools bought into it for centuries and millennium. It's all a fraud. There is no historical record of a Jesus born in Bethlehem, and they had plenty of historians at the time. And Moses, they went back, archaeologists from Israel went back to Egypt. No historical record of a Moses, and they wrote down if Ahmed borrowed or took 3 grains of wheat from Mehmet. Okay, and so please don't get into the history, because that is an entire losing proposition for you. I want to get back to
I don't agree. I know
we agree to disagree.
Will Durant. Wait. You just said a lot of stuff. Let me just give one little parting shot. Okay. Will Durant, who's a great historian, respected by all sides, he wrote that whole series of books about the history of civilization. He said, look, there's a lot of nonsense being said about questioning the historicity of Jesus Christ. And he said, if we were to question whether Jesus of Nazareth lived, then frankly, by using the same criterion, we'd have to throw out a whole number of historical worthies, and it's just stupid to do so, including Hammurabi.
God bless. You think I'm stupid, I think you're stupid.
No, I didn't say that. Okay. Will Durant said it is stupid to throw out the historicity of Jesus Christ. Okay. And Will Durant was a great historian.
Okay.
Author of The Whole Story of Civilization, a whole multiple series of books on the history of the world.
That's lovely.
Are you not familiar with Will Durant?
You couldn't be more wrong, okay? You quoting this Will Durant, okay, like, oh, wow, okay, then thereby proves it. I read the whole history of it. No Jesus born. Dude, they wrote the Bible 70 years after so-called Jesus died.
That's right.
But he couldn't find any followers until 70 years later. Some dude goes, oh, wait a minute, I heard of this Jesus guy. Let me write it down. And apparently at the time he walked on water, but only had 12 followers. If he walked on water now, he'd have 6 billion followers. He could only muster up 12 dudes? Okay? The whole thing's a farce. It's based on the stars and the fact that there's one sun and the 12 signs around it. It's in every single mythology in the history of mankind, and you guys bought into it, and you based your life around it, and it's really sad. But I want to get back to abortion, okay?
Well, wait. No, this is, but this is the heart of the issue. Why would you even care? How would Jesus have us vote?
I don't care. I find it absurd. I find it comical, okay? But what you've done is you've taken it for political purposes, which you guys have always done, and you've twisted this religion, and there are good things and great people who get very positive things out of religion. And what you've done is you've perverted it, okay? And perhaps you haven't. Perhaps that was the whole point, was to control people in the first place, right? But you've put it towards one political party in America. That's the Republican Party. And that is absurd and unjustifiable even by this book that you believe in. Because a great majority of the book is about, the New Testament is about poverty and peace. And you say, no. In fact, peace means war. Vote for the Republicans that keep bringing you into war. Poverty means bootstraps. Deal with it on your own. We're not going to help you. And you've taken a couple of small verses on what you think is abortion, when in fact it doesn't mention abortion at all in the Bible, and say, aha, hence you can never, ever, ever vote for a Democrat because I made this thing up about how Jesus, in a couple of paragraphs, might have been against abortion. What are those? Quote them for me, because you're going to quote them and they're not going to make any sense, and they're not going to use the word abortion at all. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, quote the Bible. I'm asking. You're with Coral Ridge Ministries. Tell me the part in the Bible where it mentions the word abortion.
Well, it talks about how when in Psalm 139, how David describes how before he was even born, God knit him in his mother's womb. And
God bless. So what?
He is fearfully and wonderfully made, and he describes before any days of my life were even numbered. God did
Dr. Newcomb, are you aware that we're all at some point fetuses, and that's how if you believe in God, that's how God creates us. That doesn't say you can't terminate a pregnancy in the first trimester, second trimester, or third trimester. That doesn't mention abortion at all. In fact, it doesn't even tell you when life begins. All it says is, at some point, you're in the womb. To that I say, duh, that doesn't have anything to do with abortion.
Okay, it's talking about the humanity of the unborn. We have locally in Fort Lauderdale, through the end of this month, we have this exhibit called Bodies, where they have those Pleistocene treated bodies. These are actual corpses and so forth, and they have that whole section in there of the fetuses, the unborn babies, and you see the humanity of the unborn babies.
But that's not in the Bible, though, is it?
No. And as far as the Bible, though, in the New Testament, for example, where John the Baptist was inside his mother's womb, Elizabeth, and Jesus was inside his mother's womb, Mary, when the two women came together, it says that that John the Baptist, the baby inside Elizabeth, leapt for joy. Well, babies leap for joy, not products of
what trimester was it
or whatever. That would have been a later one. That would have been a later one.
Oh, I see. And did it say in that passage that you should not do an abortion?
It says in that passage, the baby leapt for joy. The Greek word there
in a later trimester.
Brephos. Pardon me?
In a later trimester. So, look, dude, so bottom line is, it never mentions abortion in the Bible.
Well, I agree with you there, that it doesn't mention the word abortion
so
in the Bible.
I've got to ask you, Dr. Newcomb, why did you decide that to ignore the great majority of the New Testament about poverty and peace and concentrate on a couple of small, arguable passages instead?
We have a whole chapter about war.
My guess is that because you wanted to twist the Bible into supporting the Republican Party when it doesn't.
No.
Now, disabuse me of that notion and tell me why you concentrated on a couple of small, arguable verses rather than the great majority of the New Testament.
Okay, well, first of all, in the chapter about economics, we deal a great deal with the whole issue about how socialism is a form of theft. The Bible says thou shalt not steal.
I take that up with Stalin. We don't do socialism in America. Socialism is a long dead.
That's not true. A lot of times, no. A lot of times.
You're telling me that the Bible is against socialism, and that's why we should vote for the Republicans? That's your argument.
I didn't say you should vote for the Republicans.
Oh no, I know you did. I know you did.
You did.
No.
You said we should.
So, Dr. Newcomb, you're going to vote for a Democrat?
Well, my personal my personal voting I will keep to myself.
Oh, really?
But I will not vote for a socialist, and I certainly will not vote for a pro-abortion person. Absolutely, will not
vote for a socialist.
I will never. No, and to me,
so
that
you're
is
not going to vote for Bernie Sanders.
Issue.
That's about it.
Pardon me?
So you're not going to vote for Bernie Sanders, and that's about it. That's the only socialist I know as far as anybody in Congress. So, all right. And he claims he's a socialist. I don't even really quite believe it. But anyway, I'll let people give their own titles. Dr. Newcomb is the author of How Would Jesus Vote? And I know we have a lot of conservative listeners, and they're going to be interested in this book, How Would Jesus Vote? I think it's absolutely absurd, and I think you're doing it to manipulate the American people because you probably get paid by the Republican Party in one shape or another. They probably direct money to you, but I could be wrong.
You are wrong about that, and you're very, very, far more important than this election cycle are the eternal souls of people, including yours, Cenk. And it's important for you to wait.
It's too late.
You're totally wrong when you said that the Gospels were written. You said something like 70 years after Jesus Christ. You were incomplete. You're totally wrong about that. In fact, this is really important. In fact, we've got a whole special. If I may make a little plug, we've got a whole special called "The Attack on Jesus," and we focus on the Gospels and the reliability of the Gospels, and how you can date from the Apostle Paul's writing in 1 Corinthians. He's writing in the 50s, and he's going back two decades to the Christ event where Christ died, and then Christ rose from the dead, and he's placing it right at the very beginning, and then with the breakout of the Pentecost, the message on the original Pentecost, the message that Jesus Christ died for sinners and rose again from the dead. That was what the church proclaimed from the very beginning. And Christianity spread like wildfire.
Dr. Newcomb, you earned a plug, so God bless you. You're a good sport. So where can people find that?
CoralRidge.org.
CoralRidge.org.
Yeah, and then it's a program. It's airing this weekend on the Coral Ridge Hour, and it's
all right.
Called "The Attack on Jesus."
And the book is How Would Jesus Vote? Dr. Newcomb, thank you for coming on the Young Turks. Really appreciate it.
Oh, sure. Okay, thank you now.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Young Turks.